Hello everybody, it is me, Game Penguin 21, and today, alright, I might be a little out of breath because I just got out doing a quick little workout, more of a warm-up really, and I decided that, you know what, I want to talk about a good old Reforge gaming. Now a lot of people question and might wonder, why do I keep covering this, man? Well, I think today's video is going to really explain as to why we continuously cover them, at least the Salt channels that I know. There is a bunch of different reasons why, but I think this one will genuinely, interestingly, talk about how dumb he is. I know that the other videos kind of explain a lot of other things about Reforge gaming specifically, but quite honestly, him entirely crashing out on his streams most of the time is really fun to just kind of sit back and watch, because we don't really need to take him too much out of context, as he continuously claims that we do. And overall, the clips that I get posted are clips that are available for readily there on the purposes of talking about. So it's one of those things where, yeah, we might be taking you a little bit out of context, but we play a lot of the clip that we're trying to do to get our point across. So I think that today we're going to be talking about that, talking about how apparently there's something about genuine bias and not having it on Reforge's part for whatever reason, I guess. That being said, if you like what it is that I do, support me other ways, share before my little like and subscribe. It's always enough. Links down to everything in the description below. Please, we're going to hit 1.5k by the end of the year. My new album and EP are coming out soon, TM. New EP by the end of this month, and new album probably by the mid of September. I had to push it back a little bit just to space things out. With all that being said, let's get started.
So if I imagine, right? I imagine the first time I saw Tsushima, okay? At the time, I was a Destiny guy, and I was an Xbox guy. And the first time I saw Tsushima, I was like, I want to play that game right now. For a while, people referred to it as like Samurai Witcher, is what people were referring to it as. I think they thought it was going to be more like The Witcher. It wasn't really anything like The Witcher at all. I think it was just like riding the horse in large open spaces made people think of The Witcher.
I mean, I don't know of anyone that was calling it the Samurai Witcher, because it was very much historical fiction from what I remember people talking about it. And it was pretty decent. I don't remember anyone comparing it to The Witcher. Maybe the comparisons to The Witcher were more or less people just saying that it looked as good as it, or it had some of the same stuff as it. But I've not heard of that, and some of the same stuff, like, that's even stretching it to there. But I've never heard anyone compare Ghost of Tsushima to The Witcher, even before it came out.
Witcher 3, was fresh on people's minds. And so, for me, I go back to that, and I'm like, you know what? I was blown away by Tsushima when I had no bias at all. I was like, that game looks incredible. I want to play that game, right?
So just because you didn't have any interest in the actual system itself for, say, PlayStation or something, doesn't mean that you can't either develop that bias over time, but it also doesn't mean that, they released a game that you liked and that you weren't biased towards that game and have now been fully indoctrinated into that. Previous actions do not make a future action, comparable, because if you say, oh yeah, I used to have a dog and that dog was really nice and wholesome and stuff, but then that dog died, but then I got a turtle and now I'm a turtle person. That doesn't make any sense, right? You can't just say, oh yeah, I had a dog and then I bought a turtle and then my dog died and then that's why I'm a turtle person now, because the turtle doesn't die as what I presume to be a thing. That doesn't make any sense, right? It's the same kind of deal. A previous action does not denote the fact that you now currently have biases towards that company. So
I have to imagine I'm reacting in a way that is laced with bias, but is also genuine. Does that make sense? Just because you're biased doesn't mean your reaction isn't genuine. If you have a bias and...
No, that does mean that your reaction isn't genuine, actually. Because, yes, while people do have biases and stuff, a lot of people tend to check them at the door. For me personally, whenever I'm talking about you or whenever I'm talking about a lot of things that I'm not not super passionate about, or talking about a lot of PlayStation fanboys in general, I leave and I check my biases mostly at the door, unless the person shows a repeated pattern of behavior, which you have continuously done. You have continuously let a lot of things slide from PlayStation's side that Xbox has also done, but you can't check those biases, hence why your genuine reactions aren't good, because again, those genuine reactions are oftentimes based on other people's reactions, or oftentimes based on your own biases of, I want this company to succeed because I have a bias towards this company because I love this company. Like, that's the problem with you, Reforge, is that you're trying to spout neutrality when you're not neutral. It's the same thing with Alyssa Mercante and several other people, where it's like, oh, I'm not biased at all, but this thing and this thing and this thing because of my biases. Like, you can see why covering these people is inevitably dumb, but it's a never-ending fight because they will never admit that they're wrong because of their biases. So
you really, really love a certain actor, and they get cast in a movie, and you're excited to go see that movie, your excitement is still genuine. If anything, your excitement being driven by the bias is sometimes justified. You're like, well, I really, really like XYZ actor. I can't wait to see, or director, or whatever. So the way I look at it, I'm like, I think Sucker Punch and some of these studios have earned the right for you to say, well, yeah, I'm biased. I like their games, but I have good reason for liking their games. Bias has a certain...
That's a different thing entirely. See, the thing is that, well, yes, you can have those quote-unquote biases. It's more of just the thing that you're using is very different than having a biases towards excusing problems. Most people in this context would say if the person says releases a bad game or has some sort of bad take or something, that person is still not above criticism. Like, for bar none, period, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Like, there is at no point should you excuse bad actions from people who you have a biases towards. I don't do that with my friends. I don't do that with a lot of people. It's how you keep certain people in check. Yes, certainly. At times, there are points where I will forgive someone if they show improvement for something or other. But let's take FromSoft, for example. Some of their recent games have not really been hitting, at least to some people. When Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 came out, Dark Souls 2 was kind of the black sheep of the whole series at the time. 1, 2, and 3, that is, the original trilogy. And people have come around to liking it because of people actually playing it. But it was seen as such a departure from the original formula that at the time it wasn't deemed as like the good FromSoft game and you could skip it for whatever reason. But they've definitely shown improvement from that point in time, from Dark Souls 2 onward and to their other series, but they've only kind of recently dropped the ball in certain other contexts. For example, you said that the Elden Ring Night Rain has several different problems, even though you didn't fucking play the game. But at the same time, they still improved it and still made the game better, where your review that you had all those criticisms and things, yeah, no, a lot of that ended up kind of falling by the wayside. Not all of it. There was a fair amount that is still not in the game for whatever reason. But that's neither here nor there. People were willing to excuse it because, well, they had a good track record and they were willing to show improvement. They released a game that a lot of people didn't really vibe with, but now people kind of vibe with it because, yeah, there is other ways to go about specific aspects of those games. Willing to show improvement despite biases is probably the more important than saying, oh yeah, your reaction is genuine even though you're biased and you have a skewed take on this. To kind of go back to another thing there, when people were talking, when there was that one article about hoarding games from Steam and how they're have that culture, the evidence that they use skewed heavily into their favor because it was heavily skewed numbers. That's the same kind of thing as heavily skewing your views to try to excuse aspects of things that should be criticized. So that's where your biases need to be checked, really, when you need to give objective information of this is a bad thing. You are willing to excuse that, therefore, this is why we talk about you, hence why we call you a
connotation
fanboy.
That is negative. It is like you have a predisposition to like it. But again, I think in gaming, sometimes that's okay. Like, let's say you really like fighting games. Well, then your excitement over Marvel Tokone Fighting Souls is justified. You've developed an affinity for fighting games. You have a predisposition to liking fighting games. You come to the trailer preset with certain settings, right? I don't think that's a problem. This is when I think bias becomes a problem. Bias is a problem when it causes you to either slant things in a way that's not accurate, like you're trying to make something sound like it's not what it is. So like if Ghost of Yotei came out and I was incredibly biased about it and I was like, yeah, the game has virtually no flaws, and let's just say it launched with a bunch of problems. Let's use a better example, Jedi Survivor. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. If my bias for Star Wars made me act as if Jedi Survivor was totally fine and like I denied that there were any problems and I gave really bad coverage and a really bad review, you could say, man, that guy's bias has really affected his content, right? My bias for Star Wars actually made me...
Yes, that's exactly what I just said. But you tend to do that a lot without even realizing it. There are times when Xbox will do one thing that you deem as not great, but overall is kind of okay. There is things that Xbox does that is 100% heavily supposed to be criticized for, like laying off people from doing their jobs, to mismanaging specific projects. All of that shit, very justified, can be 100% criticized. I'm not denying you there. But when Xbox says we're trying to lower the prices of games and we're trying to push stuff onto Game Pass, you're looking at this as like, oh, that's a bad thing, even though that is not really a bad thing at all, because it's an option for people to buy, for people to have a rental service for games if they want that. Like, again, people keep forgetting that while Xbox, yes, is pushing a lot of Xbox Game Pass, it is an option, an optional thing. I'd rather have the option to rent the game rather than not, in case I want to maybe buy the game. It's the same thing of like, I would rather have the option of, say, a demo for a game rather than not, because then that means I can get an informed decision on a game. You forget to check these biases, especially when you have things like, the price increase for Sony. You did not criticize that. You did not call that out as being a bad thing. You tried to justify it because you had a bias towards Sony. That is the big reason why people were criticizing you, or were criticizing fanboys in general. Like, again, overall, you do have biases, and you try to pass them off as, oh, I'm not biased, oh, I'm not X, oh, I'm not Y, I'm actually a non-biased source. When you try to pull that and people see that you're trying to pull that, that's what most people will tend to have a problem with, is that you are trying to say you are a non-biased source when you clearly have bias, unless you specifically state otherwise. For me personally, I tell you, like, oh yes, I have a bias towards, say, the finals, because I have played it for over 600, 700 hours, like over the past year or so. I love the game. I have so much positive things to say about the game. However, I can still say that I am not as biased towards the game because I have a number of criticisms that I'm willing to set aside my biases for, and to set aside for specific things. Again, there are things that I'm willing to accept, and I understand that I do have biases towards the game, like there are negative things there that could affect the industry negatively, but I'm willing to put those aside, as most, if not all of the things that I like is fine, and I understand that that is biased. But I am still willing to critique a game or critique a product despite those biases. And you're not able to do that for places such as Sony and Sucker Punch and some of those other people when they fuck up. Okay? That's the difference. That's the fanboy mentality difference, is that you are not willing to give an inch of criticism to the things that you have a bias towards. That's one of, if not the biggest reasons why people call people fanboys. That's the fanboy mentality. But we move on. We're going to take a look a little bit more, and then we're going to call it.
I would probably say I was more critical because of my bias. I was like, I love Star Wars, and I love Jedi Fallen Order, and you guys frick this thing up. It doesn't run well, right? So I don't think bias is necessarily a bad thing. I think bias is bad when it harms coverage, when it makes you slant things in a way that's dishonest or represent things in a way that is dishonest. But me being like, I don't know, bro, Yote looks hot.
Like you do a lot of the time with Sony and Xbox. When Xbox fucks up even a little bit, like they can shit in the wrong way. Don't get me wrong, there is, again, things that were 100% worth criticism, and I will give you that 110,000%. But when even they shit the wrong way, and you say that, hey, they shit the wrong way, guess what? We need to completely dismantle the company. They're going under. When Sony does the exact same shit in the exact same wrong way, you're like, oh no, that's just a new way to put it into the industry. That's the difference. You are not able to do that. And, like, that's stupid.
And my bias is driving that because I like those kinds of games. I like Ghost of Tsushima. I trust that Sucker Punch is going to do a good job. All of those things make me say, this looks fantastic. Bias really isn't the devil until it disrupts things in a dishonest way. If bias is clear and owned, and you're
like you do all the time with the news whenever you cover things on PlayStation versus Xbox, hence the fanboy mentality.
Like, yeah, man, I can't wait to go to see this movie or go to buy this game or go to this sporting event, and there's bias behind your excitement. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's only wrong if it becomes a form of slant that is then dishonest. And I would say, for me, my evolution in
projection detected. A lot of projection of, like, I guess things that you do yourself. Maybe not a projection thing. Maybe it's something completely different. But look inward. You are not able to do that or not able to distinguish that for certain kinds of situations. Like, again, where was your critique of raising the prices of things? Where was your critique of, say, when Sony decided to raise the prices of this and that and give you worse performance for specific aspects of the games? Where was all those critiques? Where was all that bad coverage? But no, Xbox releases a semi-decently bad game, or a game that's like only not as perfection as this, and then they're the devil. They're the people that are bad. Jesus Christ. While I agree with his main point of biases tending to, cloud people's judgments and things, and don't get me wrong, I'm fairly certain in this context I also have biases for the judgment of specific people and products, 110%. I'm not going to deny that, but at the end of the day, it's weird and dumb that it's coming out of Reforge, because you can get how hypocritical he is when he's basically giving full reviews, negative full reviews by the by, quote unquote, but never actually playing the game, never actually setting foot in the full game, never actually playing or doing a thing, because, he just couldn't be asked to do that. You can get why I have a problem with these fanboys, at least hopefully. But this has been just a simple story before I get to the end of month roundup, and quite frankly, yikes. But in any case, if you like what it is that I do, once more in any other way, shape, or form, other than like and subscribe, which is always enough, the links down to everything in the description below. I think I've laughed into this microphone enough. If you want to check out my music, links to the Bandcamp and things. New album and EP coming out fairly soon, probably the end of July. Hopefully I can get that out by the end of July, maybe the beginning of August. That's why I pushed back the full album release a little bit, because I still think I need some art for that. As for anything else, streams every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST. Come by, say hi. We're going to be playing some games. If you want anything else to do with my Twitch or things when I usually stream on weekends, check that out. Follow me over there. Buy me money, please, or whatever. In any case, thank you all so much for watching, and a peace.
Hey man, can I get a favor?